YouTube. Today we're going to do a program review on Coolcicada 6 days push-pull leg program, and this was requested by a subscriber. Apparently it's a famous push-pull leg that came from bodybuilding.com. There are a lot of programs that originate from that website, and usually the ones that make it out of the vault aren't bad. I reviewed one in the past, the Fierce 5 novice program. This one is not a novice program, it's for beginners and intermediate, which is very important. It is not used to peak, it's indefinite, it's linear periodization, which I like. It's not a powerlifting program, it's clearly stipulated. And the goal is hypertrophy and strength. So that's my domain of expertise. And apparently it's a very notorious program. So thank you for the person who recommended that. I'm always happy to review programs. If you send me the link, I will review them. All right. So they tell us that it's a flexible template. You don't have to adhere to it 100%. And the exercise selection is not strict. But they say that you should run it for at least 12 weeks and you should follow it as much as possible. So it's a 6-day push-pull leg split. So you either do push-pull leg, you rest, push-pull leg, or you do push-pull leg, and rest. That's going to depend on your ability to go back to baseline, the recovery, whether you want to accumulate a ton of muscular damage and then recover within one rest day, or if you would rather have a rest day in between every 3 days. It's going to be up to your ability to recover from volume, the amount of tonnage you want to run, etc. They say you can keep going as long as you make progress, which is the sign of a good program. A program, unless we're talking a powerlifting program to peak for a meet, a program that can only make you progress for 3 months and then stalls is a bad program, in my opinion. And the best programs are those that you can run forever because they are so variable and flexible, and the lifting rotations are so smart that you can basically keep progressing forever. But I digress, sorry. So, first day is a push day, shoulders, triceps, chest. So it's always funny when I see people say they do push-pull leg and then they precise the body parts. That's a body split. It's a body part split. I mean, you can call it a push-pull day if you want, but at the end of the day, you could get rid of the push and just focus on the shoulders, tricep, and chest, and it would be the same thing. So they start with a bench press 3x5. I am personally not a fan of 3x5s and 5x5s. I will be making a video on each of these rep schemes to explain why. I don't think they're super good. That being said, because this is for novice and intermediates, it's not bad. 3x5 on the bench press is a little bit low for horizontal press volume. That being said, we will see as we go that there are other movements that complement it. If I had to replace the 3x5 by something, I would replace it by a 3x4 to 8. Which would give you much more of an ability to control the volume and intensity, and would not result in that much of a dip in tonnage in the first place. Followed by overhead press, 3x5. Again, the overhead press is a lift that is very hard to progress on, meaning that for people who are not gifted on vertical presses, putting all your eggs in one basket and banking on intensity, and especially a fixated and static rep range which is between low intensity and high intensity, like a 3x5, is not going to be conducive to progress once the novice gains are off the table. You will need to be able to control volume to put more volume on and progress. So you can do one of two things. Either you do 3 sets of 4 to 6, as I said before, or 6 to 8, whatever you like better, or you do what I do, which I really like, where I do 6 sets of overhead press, and it's 3 sets of 5, so just like what they're doing here, and 3 sets of 2 to 5, meaning that I start with random numbers, 135 for 5, and then I'll do 155 for 3, and then 135 for 5 again, and then 155 for 2, etc. That way I experience high intensity and high volume. The way the weights are going to fit into each other depends on your ability to go back to baseline. It's going to depend from individual to individual. After that, incline bench press, which I think is a little bit redundant depending on the angle with the overhead press. But that being said, here it's an incline bench press for 3x5, and that is one of the cases where 3x5 is not a bad thing, because it's a lift where you're not going to try and push progression too much. This is not your strength work. So having a fixated number of reps is a good thing, because it's going to give you a steady way to increase volume over time by putting on more weight on the bar once the weight becomes too easy for a 3x5. And you can do, they don't say if you need to use a barbell here. If you need to use dumbbells to make it easier on the shoulder and just play with variation, you should do it. After that, they have you do dumbbell side lateral raises, 3 sets of 10 to 12. I really like that rep range. After that, tricep pushdowns, 3 sets of 10 to 12. Same thing, good. Overhead dumbbell extensions, 3 sets of 10 to 12, same, good. And then shrugs, 3 sets of 10 to 12. For all these isolation movements, I think the rep ranges are really good. So they can stay the way they are. Now, I would reorganize that day. Why? Because I personally think that if you are going to have a day where you're going to have 2 compound movements that don't recruit the same muscle groups, it is to your benefit to give yourself some time within the workout so that you recover and can put in 100%. For example, if you do a back squat and then a front squat, that's a good strategy because you're working very similar muscles. And you might want to just completely exhaust the quads with the front squat afterwards. But if you do bench press and overhead press, they don't work the same muscles, but you use the same body for them. So if you follow them up, you understand that the overhead press is going to suffer. So a good way to do that is start with the bench press and have what I would call the resurrection strength work later on. For example, I do that on my accessory deadlift day. I start with the snatch grip dead, and then the last exercise of the day is going to be a block pull, heavy block pull. That way, I train both the snatch grip style and the conventional style, both very heavy, and they both count as strength work. So I would do bench press with the rep range I recommend, and you immediately follow the bench press with the dumbbell side lateral raises. After that, it's going to depend, because I don't want to superset the overhead press with the lateral raises, because for many people this is going to result in a worsened performance on the bench press. So the bench press will go with the overhead dumbbell extension 100%, because you work the long head of the tricep on the overhead dumbbell extension, which is not recruited in the press, and I've personally found that supersetting the long head work with presses makes you stronger. It's my personal experience on this. The overhead press will 100% be supersetted with some, even triceps pushdowns are going to hurt your ability to do that. 3x5. All right, I would say scrap. Let's scrap the incline bench press and the tricep pushdowns for that day. Let's not do them. So you do bench press and you superset the bench press with overhead dumbbell extensions. After that, you do overhead press and you superset it with dumbbell side lateral raises. That's if it doesn't impact your ability to perform on the overhead press, but I don't think it should hurt the performance aspect too much. And that should be enough. I think the incline bench press is really not necessary here. That being said, you can always keep it in your back pocket and do after that incline bench press, superset with tricep pushdowns, superset with the shrugs. So it would be a giant set. let's say it's a day where you didn't really push the volume, right? You wanted to do a high intensity day on the bench press and overhead press, but you realize that it results in a lack of tonnage and you want more volume. You do 3 sets within a giant set of incline bench press, tricep pushdowns, and shrugs. Those muscles are not going to, the isolation movements are not going to damage your ability to incline bench press, especially because it's a 3x5, which is not really a rep range that is going to be promoting progression in the first place. It's more additional volume. So I think that would be a good way to reorganize the day. If you don't want to do supersets, that's fine. Just take the overhead press and put it, I would say, after the tricep pushdowns or even before. So you do bench, if you don't want to superset anything, just do the same thing. Bench press, then overhead dumbbell extensions, then overhead press, then lateral raises, and then the pushdowns and the shrugs. The incline bench press is really the one part of the day that is not necessary, because I think you get more than enough vertical and horizontal press on that day, but it's a good thing, it's a good lifting variation hack to be able to take a lift in and out of the workout. Just understand that because you're not going to practice it a lot, you might not be super efficient on it. All right. After that, you're going to do what they call the pull day, which is back and biceps. As far as personally, my body part split runs in synergy, meaning that if I work a muscle, I'm going to work the muscles that activate with it. The back and the biceps are low on the totem pole of muscles that activate with each other. Chest, triceps, and shoulders are at the top of the list. Quads, glutes, and hammies also top of the list. Lower back and hammies, same thing. Forearms and back to an extent, same thing. But when you think about the biceps is one muscle that can really activate by itself. So if you want to pair it with something, I guess the back is not a terrible option, but it's not the best synergy you could get, because there's really no synergy with the biceps, which is why doing an arm day is much more conducive to synergy in that case, because you just work the entire arm. So back and biceps. Deadlifts, one sets of 5. I really like that rep range. I think deadlifts, you can get away with low frequency and lower volume as long as the intensity is high. For most people, this is going to be enough to progress on. And the deadlift is going to push progression on every single pull, every single row, and a lot of the lower body lifts in general, because they are so conducive to nervous system strength and strength overall in your legs and upper back. But they're not the best for hypertrophy. So they do say it's optional. I don't really like giving people the option to do deadlift. You don't have to do conventional deadlift, but you should do a pull. Can be Jefferson, can be sumo, it can be block pulls, but you need to pull from the floor or from blocks. But it's a pattern that has to be done. So I would scratch the optional. It's not optional. Plus, it's going to warm you up for your session, because afterwards you're doing barbell rows 3x5, and if you jump into barbell rows 3x5, you're going to find that you would be, even if the deadlifts tire you out, you're going to be more efficient afterwards for the barbell rows, because you warmed up your hammies and your glutes and your lower back. I hate 3x5 for barbell rows. I think it's probably one of the worst lifts to use that rep range on. Do 3 sets of 6 to 10, do 3 sets of 8 to 12, but don't do 3x5. It's not conducive to progress. You're going to use, if you get 5 reps on the first sets of barbell rows, it's either that it was too easy because you were able to repeat the feat 3 times, or your form went to heck and you started using way too much legs. It's supposed to be an upper body lift. Understand that 3x5 and 5x5 for a lot of lifts is just too strange of an intensity window to exist within, because it gives you no room to breathe. So it's going to damage something. It's either going to damage the quality of the volume or the type of intensity you apply. So I don't like it. Lat pull downs after that, 3 sets of 8 to 10. Okay, I like the rep range. I don't like lat pull downs. I think you should be doing pull-ups instead. And if pull-ups are too easy, do weighted pull-ups. I think they are better for hypertrophy. They make you more athletic. They are better for injury prevention. After that, seated rows. So another horizontal row, 3 sets of 8 to 10. Face pulls, 3 sets of 10 to 12. I don't like the rep range for face pull. I think it's too low, meaning you're going to be in too high of an intensity window. I think 3 sets of 15 to 20 is a better rep range for face pulls. Why? Because you do not want to reach mechanical failure on face pulls. It should be muscular failure 100% of the time. Barbell bicep curls, 4 sets of 10 to 12. I really like that rep range. And then alternate bicep curls, 3 sets of 10 to 12. Remember what I said about lifts following themselves within the program being as important as your frequency within the week. Why would you follow your barbell bicep curls by alternate bicep curls? You're working the same muscle. So you're upping the intensity artificially by following the barbell curls with another variation of the barbell curls when you're already tired. What is the point of that? I mean, I'm not saying it's bad, but what is the point? You're going to be less strong, you're going to be weaker, not going to be pushing as much weight. It's going to lower your tonnage. And I'm not saying that supersetting the same muscle group twice or within the same set is a bad thing, but you need to know why you're doing that. I personally do that on triceps because the triceps can be hit from several different angles. But for curls, I don't think it's good. So the way I would reorganize that day is you do your deadlifts, then you do your barbell rows, and you're going to superset the barbell rows with the pull-ups because it's horizontal and vertical pull, and you're going to find that they don't take away from each other that much. They do 100%. I'm not saying they don't, but not that much. So if you want to stay with body weight pull-ups, do that. If you want to do weighted pull-ups, you can not superset them and have them be their own thing. But if that's the case, I would say, just like I did with the incline bench press earlier, scratch the lat pull downs completely, don't do them. And same for the seated rows, I would say. So it's going to be one of two things. Either you do both the lat pull downs and the seated rows and you just superset them and you go for volume and for the pump, or you scratch both, the lat pull downs are replaced by pull-ups and the seated rows are replaced because you modified the rep range of the barbell rows and now you're doing more volume. So you can focus on the compound movement, push progression, push tonnage, and not worry too much about doing 1,000 machine movements. And after that, I would say that if you are going to be doing, and let's say we're going to assume that you do weighted pull-ups. If you do weighted pull-ups, you can superset the barbell rows with alternate bicep curls, meaning that they're going to be nice and tired. After that, you would be jumping into your pull-ups, and then you can do a superset of face pulls, 4 sets of 15 to 20, superset with barbell bicep curls, 4 sets of 10 to 12. That way you end the workout with the bicep curls, and you can completely tire them out, and they will have recovered from the alternate bicep curls earlier. And that's a good way to close the day. So that's how I would reorganize the day. And now that I've said that, I definitely would keep the deadlifts as non-optional because you need that extra tonnage for that day because that day is not that heavy on tonnage. The push day before would be almost as much in terms of pure tonnage, even though it's an upper body day, which is not normal. Lower body days by default, because you're stronger with your legs, should represent more tonnage. And then you do leg day. This is also why I don't like push-pull legs that much. I think they don't make much sense. You did deadlifts and barbell rows, and your legs are tired, and you tired your lower back and your posterior chain, and you follow with leg day with squats, which squats are more taxing than deadlifts in my opinion, when technique is proper, right? A a lot of people don't understand that is because they don't pull with a proper form deadlift and they put too much weight on the deadlift, weight that they have no business lifting, but they are much more conservative with the squats because they are afraid of failing the squat because they don't want to get pinned. That's why some people, their deadlift to squat ratio is so big. It's because they're not applying intensity properly because their technique is not right. And this is also why that guy wrote optional for deadlift, because yes, in a push-pull leg, if you pull heavy on the pull day, you're not going to squat heavy on the leg day because it's literally the day afterwards. No matter what type of recovery scheme you apply, there's no rest day between the push, pull, and leg. So that's why push-pull legs are not that good in my opinion. Because you follow a template that if you actually applied what the name says, you would not be able to recover from it, and therefore you would shoot yourself in the foot. Which is why I promote body part splits, because body part splits are basically the same. It's the same as an upper-lower split, it's the same as a push-pull leg, but the way the frequency works and the way you can synergize body parts is just that much better, because you're not restrained by the limitations of labels. You don't have to do only pulls, you can do whatever as long as it works the right muscles. But I digress. I will talk about that when I discuss push-pull legs. So, on the leg day that follows afterwards, that is quads, hammies, and calves. And glutes. I mean, they don't say it, but it's glutes too. Just like the pull day. Which is not good because, again, I repeat myself, but the bigger the muscle group is, the more tonnage it can move, the more time it needs to recover. It's sort of by default. This is why smaller muscle groups take less time to recover. It's not necessarily because they have a better ability, it's also because you don't work them as hard because they don't have the ability to move as much weight. So your glutes are also going to be tired. But squats, 4 sets of 5 to 6. This is strange because that program, the entirety of the program, the strength work never had evolving rep range, and suddenly there's an evolving rep range for squats of all lifts, and it gives you 1 rep of breathing room. That makes no sense. 4 sets of 4 to 8 would be much more beneficial because it gives you more room. That being said, it's also the reason why 5x5s aren't bad for beginners, because it gives you a template, it gives you a structure, meaning that you can't really mess up. I mean, you mess up by following the rep scheme in the first place, but if you mess up, you can blame the rep scheme. That's what I mean. When someone tells you, oh, do 5 to 6 reps, it's not enough room for you to really be responsible if you don't calculate volume and intensity well enough. But I personally think that anyone who watches this channel is just as capable as me and therefore should be applying evolving rep ranges. So I would say do 4 sets of 4 to 8 on squats. After that, the leg press. I don't really see the point of following the leg press with the squats. That being said, it's my bias. I love squats. I understand some people don't like them as much, but if you're going to do a leg press, just use the leg press as your main strength work for the legs. That's the principle of specificity. If you're going to pick squats as your knee flexion, it means that you're going to do squats, front squats, SSB squats, close stance squats, box squats, all of that stuff. Why? Because you're going to want to stay as specific as possible to drive strength, because lifts that are specific feed into each other and they make you stronger without having to practicing the same lift again and again. It prevents obvious injuries, etc., etc. But squats and leg press are not super specific to one another. I mean, I know people who think that because they can leg press 500 pounds, they can squat 500 pounds. Those people usually can barely squat 300 pounds. So I don't like this. Pick one. Don't do everything. That's the issue. This is already a program that is not super high in the exercise selection, and yet it still manages to apply minimalism. Pick one. So if you're going to do squats and then front squats or SSB squats or post squats. If you do leg press, you can start with heavy leg press and then tempo leg press, or you can put your feet in a different position on the leg press. And as far as the rep range for leg press, 8 to 10 is not terrible. That's okay. After that, leg extensions. I don't like leg extensions. I just think it's a subpar lift. Just do more squats. And if your lower back is the limiting factor and you cannot do more because the actual loading is too much, then I would say either focus on hyperextensions to reinforce the lower back and hamstring, or do more hamstring work. Because again, in this program, and I'm going to after all go over it, but there's not enough posterior chain work. So I would say instead of the leg extension, do more squats, and afterwards they do hamstring curls. And I would say instead of hamstring curls, do Romanian deadlifts, do good mornings. And the rep range they give is 10 to 12, which is good. And then standing calf raises, 5 sets of 10 to 12. I don't like this either, because why? You're going to be done with your lower body workout, right? You're going to be tired, and you're telling me you're going to do 5 sets of 12 standing calf raises? How boring is that? You're going to go home. Be honest with yourself. No one likes working calves to start with. So you're going to skip that all the time. I'm the same. So don't do that. So this day is the worst day. The leg day is awful. Leg days in general are bad because they are usually something that doesn't happen frequently enough. But here, that day is awful. So what I would say is, start with the squats, like they say. Then you can do a variation of the squat with lighter weight, 8 to 12 reps or 3 sets. And then you can do Romanian deadlifts or good mornings for 4 sets of 10 to 12. And you go home. That's it. It'll take less time. It's going to be more tonnage moved. It's going to be more conducive to progress. And you can superset your variation of the squats and your good mornings or RDL with standing calf raises, meaning that in total you're going to get between 7 or 8 sets of standing calf raises. It's not going to tax your ability to use your hamstrings or quads, and you're going to have to do them because now they're in between sets of stuff that's heavy and fun. So you're going to have to do them. That's how I trick myself. I do calves as supersets because that way I do it. If it's at the end of the workout, you know you're not going to do it, because the reason why it was put at the end of the workout in the first place is because you didn't care enough to do it. So you trick yourself, force yourself to do it. It's the equivalent of eating your spinach before you eat your dessert. That way you know you're going to eat the spinach, because if you don't eat the spinach, there's no dessert. The dessert is not going to happen. Okay, so I'm just going to read what they say to finish off. They say it's not rocket science. You're hitting a heavy compound for 3 to 4 sets, and then you do accessory movements, which the philosophy is good, but the way they applied it is not good. They say you can swap out movements if you don't like them, which is good, and that's pretty much that. After that, they give you a spreadsheet to track progression, and they give you also different lifts you could be doing instead of the lifts they gave, and I'm not going to comment on that too much. I'm going to link the program in the description and the link to the website, but most of the exercise selection that they have is pretty good. It's nothing major. What I would say is, besides the reviews I just made where I basically changed every single day and I tell you that I don't like push-pull legs, within this workout I see a lack of long head of the tricep work. You get 3 sets of long head of the tricep work. That's it. So it's a total of 30 reps. That's not enough. Even for novices. For novices it's enough. For intermediates it is not enough. You get plenty of, and even though I say plenty, but you really work your triceps one every 3 days. That's also an issue with pull legs. It's really focused on the lower body because, as the name entails, push, pull, legs. On the pull, you're going to work your legs, and on the leg too. And you're going to find that a lot of intermediate end up with having very good legs, a very good lower body, but the upper body is lacking. This is why. Not enough of an accent of upper body. Why? Because you follow push-pull leg, which by default the template is more focused on the lower body. Which is why your body part split is better, because you could sneak in some upper body work whenever you want, because you're the one who decides which body part you work. So long head of the tricep, not enough. Calves, not enough, but I mean, it's I don't know any program who works the calves enough. And even mine was bad at it. I revamped it, I will make a video about it, but calves are a special beast. Like, you really need to work them all the time for them to grow. Curls get love. At least biceps get love. So that's good, but it's still once every 3 days. For some people, it's not enough frequency. The traps don't get enough love, especially because they tell you, oh, do deadlifts if you want. So you get 3 sets of 10 shrugs and that's it. That's not enough. And if you apply nucleus overload within a body part splits, that the problem would be resolved. Shoulders are okay, not enough real delt in my opinion. You need more face pulls than that. The posterior chain is just sad. There's not enough posterior chain work. You need more hip hinges than that. You need more deadlift variations. You need more good mornings, etc. The lats is okay. Not enough. There's no calisthenics movements in this. It's funny, the weird relationship with calisthenics that people have, where people think they're for novices. Either people think they're for novices or people think they're for advanced lifters, but there's no in between. Like, it's either people don't do them at all, or they say that it's the only thing that you can just stick to them and it's the only thing you need as an advanced lifter. None of these are correct, but you need to apply them properly. So more of that for the lats would be beneficial. For people who have weak lower back, I would put hyperextensions somewhere. The chest, I think, gets enough love, because it's in my opinion, big muscle groups don't need as much frequency as small muscle groups. And horizontal presses are taxing on the shoulders, so I get it. And overall, understand that I critique every program I'm going to critique, I critique them from my perspective of someone who has optimized this program so much that pretty much everything falls into place perfectly. I understand that you don't need that to make progress. You can make progress on this. But when I critique a program, if you send it to me, if it's your personal program or a famous one, I'm going to treat it the same way every time, where I'm going to try and optimize as much as I can. And there's always room for optimization in every program, ever. So yeah, this is what I would do. The specificity needs to be adapted too, because I don't think, especially for the leg day, it was bad. Forearms get no direct work. I'm not surprised again. Forearm isolation is important, so more forearm isolation would also be good. And as far as muscle groups go, that's pretty much that. Of course, there is no neck work, because, of course, there's never neck work, but slapping in more neck work would also be good. So as far as progression goes, I don't even think pure strength progression on this is going to be that great, because the rep ranges don't give you enough room to manipulate volume and intensity. And for hypertrophy, as I said, it's incomplete. So all of the modifications I said apply to this. This is what I think about the Coolcicada push-pull leg program. Thank you for watching. If you have any comments, let me know. Have a good day.